I understand the timeline for easing restrictions is still a work in progress, still a little bit hazy. It's dependent on what people do today. But from where you're sitting with the data you have, can you say today that baseball is possible in July, school will be back in session in September, and it's possible that elections will happen as normal in November?
Yeah, I don't know as normal, and none of the above as normal. I think that would be unrealistic to assert. You have to radically change the floor plans in the schools, in businesses, private, public institutions, large and small. We're going to have new protocols and procedures, temperature checks, people wearing face coverings across the spectrum. But the idea of tens of thousands of fans coming together across their differences, high-fiving one another, hugging each other after a base hit or a strikeout is not something I'm anticipating anytime soon.
It sounds like what you're saying is life as we knew it is gone until such a time when there's a vaccine or herd immunity.
You got it. I mean, it's not that complicated, or incredibly successful and viably distributed treatments. I don't anticipate that normalcy that many of us wished for happening anytime soon, but we will begin to toggle back, to put a little dimmer switch up and begin to change the way we currently are conducting ourselves from a full lockdown stay-at-home order to one that is more prescriptive, targeted, and strategized.
Here you are preparing people for profound changes. I don't hear the same message from Washington, D.C., from President Trump. Do you think he has a responsibility at this point to start preparing America for the very same changes you've described?
I think we all have a responsibility to use the information that we have, the data we have, and process it in a way that's open and honest with the American people. Look, I don't think there's anything wrong with being optimistic and hopeful. I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful. This is not the new normalcy in perpetuity. We're going to come back. We just need to temper the enthusiasm on when and how. And once we get herd immunity and once we get a vaccine, then we can come back and flourish and thrive.
Boy, but herd immunity or a vaccine, that could be many months or more than a year off. So when it comes to being open and honest with the American people, the governor of California seems to be trying to do so. Like many other governors, he also said he would like to see more federal support in testing, not with the facilities. They have enough facilities. What they lack, Gail, is the supplies, swabs and the like.
You know, Tony, what strikes me about the interview that you just did with Governor Newsom, he is certainly consistent. Last time he was on our air, he said opening too soon would be like jumping out of a plane with a parachute and cutting the cord before you land. A lot of people thought that was a really great analogy. And the latest poll shows that people hold on to what Dr. Tony Fauci says about when this should reopen. And he has said all along, the virus determines the timeline, not anybody else.
And the sergeant from the National Guard come in. And my friend asked him, what's going on with all the military, the National Guard. And he told him that, they'd all been called back, which, we know. They called the military back up and activated the National Guards, and Trump calling out, over 1 million infantry. But, so my friend asked him, well, what are you guys going to be doing? And the sergeant told him that they're going to be bottlenecking, starting in the big cities. Bottlenecking down the traffic in order to do testing. And my friend was like, well, what if the person doesn't want to be tested and, they don't agree to it? And the sergeant informed him that it was not an option to not be tested. And my friend's like, well, what if they refuse? you know. And the sergeant informed him that whatever force is necessary will be used in order to conduct the test.
And here's what's happening down in South America, Peru, Panama, to limit movement by gender in bid to slow down the coronavirus. And the country's police and security forces are enforcing a new regulation. Men can leave their homes on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays with an ID, while women can only do so on Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And Sunday, no go nowhere. You stay at home. This can be implemented in the United States and all across the world as well. They're doing testing around the world, but just one more of the taking away of our liberties, our freedoms, and putting us all under permanent lockdown. So first we had the coronavirus outbreak and the flattening of the curve. Then we had the lockdown, stay at home, shelter in place terminology. And then we had the social distancing meme come out. And now we have the new one they're introducing to us, contact tracers. What is a contact tracer? Well, it's beyond the pale. And again, what I want to show you is Governor Newsom, the Jesuit, announcing that 10,000 contact tracers are going to be needed in the pandemic. Testing and contact tracing will be expanded. We're committed to sending the state 100,000 testing swabs next week and 250,000 swabs the following week. So this is going to be happening very rapidly, and it's going to be happening everywhere. And there's going to be choke points where you're going to have to get mandatory swab testing, even though we've proven and shown over and over where the test kits show up to 80% false positives. And even though we know that the death certificates now are being, no matter what you're dying from, are being listed as COVID and padding the numbers as well. So check this out. And this is being picked up by all the corporate news sources, so you know they're playing the meme here. Google and Apple announced today that they'll use Bluetooth to track COVID-19 cases, so you'll be tracked by your phones. I don't know if you've noticed, but every time I sign into my Gmail account now, if I use a different computer, I've got to have my phone connected to get the key to the code to unlock the Gmail for my own protection, for my own security. All right, during infectious disease outbreak, the best tools public health experts have is old school detective work, finding each sick person and then figure out who they recently interacted with. The technique is called contact tracing. So this is where it gets, the rubber meets the road here, folks. Contact tracing is based on an obvious idea. People in close contact with someone who has COVID-19 are at risk of getting sick. So what are we doing? We're all at home, so they're saying all your family members at home are at risk if they find someone that has COVID-19. When a person gets sick, they are then interviewed by the public health officials. The public health officials are the new gods, folks. They get to make all the decisions, and asked who has been exposed to them. Then they take that list and fan out to ask those people who either to pay close attention to how they're feeling or to quarantine, forcibly remove you from your home. Read that. If a person who was exposed is infected, again, 80% false positives on the testing, their recent contacts will be tracked down like dogs and hunted. Remember they used the term in Rhode Island, we will hunt you down, when people were fleeing New York City during the beginning of the lockdown? The process continues until everyone who has been exposed is, get this, out of circulation. Read that again. The process continues until everyone who has been exposed is out of circulation, and that stops the virus transmissions. The virus will then have nowhere to go. And then they got their man-boy symbol down here. I mean, this is where we're heading with it all. And this is not just happening in California, in Texas, in different cities, states, or in different counties. It's happening all around the world Contact tracing is the new meme. They're going to be implementing. Roadblocks are going to be set up. Choke points are going to be set up. Mandatory swabbing is going to be set up. Tracking you by your apps are going to be implemented.
Last week, Dr. Michael Ryan, he's a leader at the World Health Organization, announced that in response to the spread of this virus, authorities may have to enter people's homes and remove family members, presumably by force.
In most parts of the world, due to lockdown, most of the transmission that's actually happening in many countries now is happening in the household, at family level. In some senses, transmission has been taken off the streets and pushed back into family units. Now we need to go and look in families to find those people who may be sick and remove them and isolate them in a safe and dignified manner.
Just so you know, we're coming to your house, seizing your children and, quote, isolating them in a safe and dignified manner.
Yeah, good evening, Chris. That is right. Our KPRC2 online poll is pretty tight right now. 52% say yes, go to pickup only, while 48% of our viewers say no, grocery stores should stay open. And while this is happening across the country, grocery stores switching to that pickup only option.
But I mean, it would be great if they could pull it off. But right now, when you order online, it takes days to get your food.
So it is really important, folks, that we educate everybody as much as possible. I know a lot of you are feeling very uncomfortable putting masks on, and you're getting socially shamed. Hearing a lot of people getting socially shamed, that's another terminology, for with snitches about not wearing masks, about not keeping distance, yada, yada, when every fiber in our body says resist, resist, resist. While they're playing such mind games as predicted in the 2012 and before Olympics, with nurses dancing in the streets and partying and having a great time and doing this is all just to get the meme and get us all divided and conquered and riled up. But what isn't is how they are coming and testing for you and doing false positive testings, and then you're being taken away. You're being, say you have the virus when you had the temperature raised, when you had the flu, when you had respiratory, whatever. They turn up the 5G, you get this, you get that. And here we have case after case after case of people saying they're coming and taking away and being tested and getting positive tests coming back, even though the symptoms were mild, even though they were asymptomatic, even though we didn't want the test. They're coming after us. And then they'll be able to come into your homes, and anybody that's had contact with someone they're saying positive, they can take them and quarantine them. And as the article previously said, people will be tracked down and then they will be quarantined until they are identified and will be, quote, put out of circulation. Terminology using put out of circulation, or as I said before, hunted down. So again, getting back to the gardens is really important, folks. Growing your own food. It's not going to come from see, these protesters that are going here and protesting and stuff to the government that shut them down, that did it, and waving the American flag and waving the test. They're drinking the Kool-Aid thinking, oh, we're going to get the government that did the oppression and locked us down in the first place to come to their senses and change their MO and do this when they don't get it's a worldwide event. They're doing it worldwide. It's worldwide coordinated. So your little protest at your state capitals or honking your horns or waving your flags, I'm sorry. You're not doing something. You're contributing to the problem. You should be supporting your local farmers. You should be getting out there in nature. You should be growing food and helping others to get educated. Speak out about what we need. We need numbers. We need people identify and get up awake And so the more we can awake, the more power we're going to have. But when we've got social shaming going on, you can't even walk in the store without a mask on, or people are going to complain at you and report you and whatnot. We're not going to win. So we're going to have to play small ball, and that means your community where you live, not looking to the government who oppressed you in the first place, who brought out the laws that took away your rights in the first place, to show some mercy, give some compassion. The children, folks, they're going to be the ones affected the most because their future, they have no future. And this is why they brought up the euthanasia a few years ago, that allowing euthanasia is a good idea because they're going to allow people to check out. They're going to come into your homes and take your family members away. I hope you have some protection to say no. And if you're in the burbs and the cities, you're going to have neighbors reporting on you. This is the world we live in today. I'm sorry there's not a better message, but for those, forearmed is foreprepared. Those that fail to prepare to fail. And then find your tribe and your community. Speak out because others are thinking the same way. People are coming up to me now and saying, hey, you buying this stuff? We can just start and just ask questions. We can just say, hey, are you okay? Show some compassion, show some love, show kindness, but in your community. Don't think that going to the government steps or writing your congressman is going to make any difference whatsoever. You're playing into their hand. You're playing into their fears. You're playing into their system of every government is a corporation. CDC is a corporation. There's nobody there. It's a dead entity. That's why it's a corporation. So when you go to the government of a corporation and say, I want you to give me back my rights, you're playing into their hands. Go write your own laws. Do what Mendocino County did with Measure S. We wrote our own laws saying we're the power. Maybe Mendocino County will grab some cojones and will enforce the laws we put in on the books that are still there today. Maybe not. But they're coming after everyone. And they're going to target those that are speaking out like me and others because they can definitely come in and say, well, you've been associated with so-and-so, whether it's true or not, and we need to take you away. Well, I'm going to have some say in that, but if I can't go to the store and get my food and pick up my online distributing food, how am I going to be able to eat for my family? How am I going to be able to provide for my family if I cannot or they cannot go to the store and they can't follow us by our social apps and then say, well, you haven't been tested, Mr. Lee, so you're not going to be allowed to purchase your online groceries. That's where it's coming to, folks, unless we build community, unless we support our local farmers, unless we speak out and find others and build our tribe. All right, stay safe, stay sane, speak out, be heard, and just be ready to do this for the long haul, folks. Thanks.